When the millionaire's maid remained calm during a robbery, her brutal secret haunts us forever. The night was cloaked in darkness, an unsettling shroud that wrapped around the mansion like a long-lost ghost. Inside, laughter danced through gilded halls, but beneath the laughter, something sinister stirred. The high-pitched shrieks of expensive crystal chandeliers shivered each time someone slammed a door, creating an eerie echo that clawed at the edges of silence. It was a night destined to become legend. When the robbery struck, chaos erupted. But in the middle of that frenzy stood one figure, the maid, utterly calm, and that was the strangest part. What lay behind the maid's unflinching demeanor? Her name was Clara, but no one knew her story. A woman with a haunting smile that seemed to mask secrets darker than the night itself. While others screamed and trembled, her hands moved steady as a heartbeat as she polished the silverware. Was it bravery? Or something deeper? The elegance of her grace mixed with the panic around her was uncanny, too surreal. It was as if Clara danced to a tune none of them could hear. The first robber burst in, a hulking figure with wild eyes hidden under a ski mask. But instead of fear, Clara simply looked up, her expression unwavering. Whispers flooded the room, tales of how she carried herself under the crushing weight of panic. "I heard she practiced deep breathing, but that wasn't it," murmured a guest, eyes wide, all hands trembling, hearts racing. "There's something off about her." Just as the tension felt about to burst, a hushed question lingered. What did Clara know that they didn't? A strange chill filled the air as she began speaking, her voice low yet firm, weaving words that hinted at shadows and ancient debts, leaving the guests stumbling into whispers. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As Clara's voice trailed into the shadows, the air thickened. The second robber eyed her suspiciously, swaying between confusion and hostility. Why was she so unfazed? The faintest hint of a smirk tugged at Clara's lips, and with it, tension crackled. Then, just like that, silence engulfed the room. The world stopped. The robbery turned surreal, leaving everyone hanging on the edge, eyes locked on Clara's poised, unyielding figure. What secrets lay beneath that calm exterior? The whispers of the night hinted at something far worse, a brutal truth simmering just beneath the surface. The question hung there, heavier than the chandelier above. How deep did Clara's secrets go? A thick silence stretched between Clara and the robbers, amped up by the tension throbbing in the air. The intruders exchanged uncertain glances. Their bravado faltered against the rock-solid calm of the woman standing before them. The hulking figure of the first robber shifted nervously, the barrel of his gun wavering ever so slightly. Everyone could see it, and fear pooled at the base of their spines. "What are you doing?" he demanded, his voice edged with desperation. But Clara merely tilted her head, as if she were considering a particularly fascinating puzzle. "Are you really willing to trust fate?" she asked, her words slicing through the tension like a knife. A murmur rustled through the room, eyes darting back and forth, confusion painting their faces. "What are you talking about?" The second robber spoke, his bravado crumbling. For a moment, Clara glanced down at the silverware still clutched in her hands, then looked up, her eyes gleaming like sharpened steel. "The world is filled with debts, you know," she said softly, her demeanor unervingly serene. "Some debts are paid in blood." Her words hung in the air like a specter. Gasps erupted from the crowd. The guests caught their breaths, torn between horror and fascination. What kind of woman stood here, defiant in the face of armed danger, weaving tales like a spider spins its web? "Shut up!" the first robber shouted, taking a threatening step closer. But Clara remained unmoved, a statue etched in defiance. "Do you believe in destiny?" Clara continued, her voice low yet hypnotic. "I wonder what brought you here tonight, but perhaps it was me." A jolt of fear ricocheted through the room, and the second robber stumbled back, unease racing across his features. "You think you're some kind of witch?" he sneered, though uncertainty flickered in his eyes, betraying his bravado. "I know witches," Clara admitted, a chilling smile crawling across her lips. The atmosphere warped, shadows seemed to lengthen, and the laughter from earlier faded into an eerie memory. "I know those who gain power by playing the tightrope between fear and bravado." Before she could finish, the sound of a loud crash shattered the moment. The front door burst open and a group of masked figures stormed in, a whirlwind of chaos and shouts. The room erupted into pandemonium. Guests screamed, rushing to hide behind furniture while the robbers turned, bewildered by the sudden influx. Clara's calm didn't flinch. Instead, a light flickered in her eyes, a silent thrill. She stepped forward, her presence slicing through the storm of confusion. "This is your chance," she called to the new arrivals, her voice surprisingly steady despite the chaos around her. "You could change everything or become nothing." The atmosphere crackled with tension, but now two shadows loomed, each threatening chaos. The original robbers eyed the new group, sweat beading on brows where there had once been bravado. Clara's unyielding gaze danced between the two factions. What had she done? The newfound desperation of the original robbers was palpable as they exchanged frantic looks, suggesting that maybe Clara wasn't who they thought. What truth was brewing beneath her composed facade? One thing was crystal clear: the night was far from over, and Clara's brutal secret was about to surface amid the fray. As the chaos unfolded, Clara took a step back, her eyes fixed on the door, waiting the pieces falling into place. What awaited them all in the storm brewing just beyond? The clamor reached a fever pitch as the tension in the room transformed from a quiet storm to a wild cyclone, swirling around Clara like a dark veil. The masked figures moved with calculated aggression, their sheer presence intensifying the unpredictable atmosphere. Gunshots rang out, punctuating the chaos like thunder in a tempest. Clara remained unyielding, arms relaxed at her side, her expression serene amidst the madness. Around her, the original robbers fumbled for control, their faces twisted in fear. The second robber, trembling, turned to his partner. "What do we do?" "They weren't supposed to shut your mouth." The first robber barked, adrenaline thrumming in his veins. The sight of the new intruders sent him reeling, igniting a primal instinct to fight or flee. Meanwhile, the wealthy guests pressed their bodies against furniture, desperate for shelter. Clara's gaze flickered toward them, her heart swelling with a strange mix of empathy and resolve. They were caught in a web, a game of survival. "Do you see what happens when you play with fate?" she murmured, more to herself than anyone else. Just then, one of the masked figures shouted over the din, "Everyone, on the ground. Now!" The command reverberated, and people obeyed, scrambling to the polished wood floor, panic-stricken breaths escaping their lips. Clara could feel their fear like a tangible force, heavy and unwelcome. The second robber, still on edge, felt trapped. His hands trembled, gun still aimed at Clara, but she couldn't help but notice the way his resolve wavered. You don't get it. We were just here for money," Clara finished for him, her voice icy and cutting. "But what is money compared to a life torn apart by this moment? You think you can escape the consequences of your actions?" The masked figures advanced, tightening their grip on what they aimed to seize. One of them grappled with an elegant chandelier, ready to swing it down. Clara's mind raced, connections sparking in her head like firecrackers. She had always known how to manipulate the scenario. Each player had a role to play in this twisted narrative. "Turn your focus to me," she commanded, her tone firm and unwavering. "I'm the key to this entire night unraveling. Take your shot." The masked figures paused, confusion dawning in their eyes. Was she mad? Enough! The first robber roared, too loud, the noise betraying his inner turmoil. Focus on them. We have to get out of here. But Clara took a step closer, almost tenderly. What if I told you there's a way that saves you, too? For a heartbeat, the room fell silent. They hung on her words, hopeful yet cautious, like flowers yearning for sunlight. It starts with actually understanding the debts you've accrued, Clara said, her voice laced with an eerie calm. Not just in money, but in choices, the sacrifices that bind us in this chase. The tension swelled again as her proposal wafted through the air, thickening it with suspense. Somewhere deep within was a reckoning looming, treading the fine line between life and death. Suddenly, a crashing sound echoed through the hall, as one of the masked figures broke through the tumult, throwing aside their mask. Clara's heart sank. It was someone she knew. No, it can't be. A chill gripped her as the shocking revelation sank in. What happens next could erase everything you've ever known. She yelled, her voice strained against the backdrop of chaos. As the reality of their choices pressed in, the room felt suffocated by dark tensions. Clara's secret hung visibly in the air, as intangible as fog that threatened to swallow them all. What sacrifice would surge from those shadows, and would anyone escape unscathed when the veil was finally lifted? The revelation struck Clara like a lightning bolt, electrifying the air around her. As the mask fell away, the figure revealed was none other than Leo, her older brother, the one person she thought she could rely on. His expression mirrored hers, confusion mingling with fear, yet cloaked in an unwavering determination. "Clara?" he stammered, eyes widening. "What are you doing here?" The chaos around them faded into a dull roar as Clara locked eyes with Leo. Memories of their shared childhood flooded back, battlefield thoughts mixing with betrayal. They hadn't spoken in years, but the path that brought them to this moment was as clear as a mirror shattering. "Leo, you have to get out of here." This isn't the words were bottled in her throat, a mixture of worry and anger rising. "No. I'm staying," he said, voice firm, jaw set. "They've got something planned, Clara. Something bigger than just money." The first robber, noticing the exchange, barked, "Enough of this. We don't have time for family reunions." His eyes glinted with fury, and he raised his gun, aiming straight at Leo. "Wait!" Clara shouted, her voice slicing through the chaos like a knife. "Listen, you don't have to do this. This can end without bloodshed." Leo's gaze flickered to her, uncertainty etched on his face. "Clara, what are you talking about? Let us not focus on what's already happened but what we can change," she pleaded, slowly raising her hands, calm yet assertive. "You're not just robbing a place, you're robbing people of their future, your future, Leo." It could have been a moment of clarity, the kind that illuminated the darkest corners of their fractured relationship, but the first robber hadn't come to negotiate. He stepped forward, the tension in his grip tightening on the trigger. "Enough. I want the safe, now." Just then, the thud of footsteps echoed from the hallway. Clara's hope dimmed as a third group entered the scene, more masked figures, more chaos. This was a collapse of wills, a tempest of desperation now spiraling beyond control. "Who the hell are they?" the first robber growled, training his gun on the new arrivals. Panic swept through the room like a wildfire. Clara could feel it, the energy shifting, the atmosphere thickening. The new masked figures, taller and more aggressive, drew weapons, focusing their attention on the original robbers. "Find the money, or we'll make sure you never leave," one of them sneered. The masks they wore were painted with symbols she recognized, something she had been trying to forget. "Shadow Syndicate," she whispered, heart racing. "Clara." Leo's voice cut through her thoughts. "What's that? Do you know them?" "They're not just here for cash," she said, urgency mounting. "They're here for blood. They'll kill everyone to cover their tracks." The air thickened with dread. The guests curled into themselves, silent screams trapped behind lips pressed in tight lines. The original robbers' bravado withered as they exchanged glaring glances filled with fear. Clara's eyes darted between them, weighing options, battling a rising tide of panic. Leo. Her voice dropped to a near whisper, desperate and urgent. We need to work together. If we don't stand against them, they'll take everything, our lives, everyone's lives. But the first robber loomed, desperation twisting his features. Why should I trust you? Because doom hangs on this night. If you bring blood into this, you won't escape. Her words reverberated, and for a moment, she saw a flicker of doubt in his eyes. Hope dared to flicker within Clara just a little longer, just a little patience. Suddenly, a gun fired, the shot ringing out like a siren through the crowd, sending shockwaves of fear through every soul present. As chaos tightened its grip, Clara's mind raced. Could she rewrite the narrative? Could she protect everyone, even her estranged brother? As the moment stretched into eternity, she realized the old rules no longer applied. What happens when blood ties clash with survival? And who would emerge from this chaos alive? The gunshot pierced the air like a thunderclap, and the crowd recoiled in unison. A wave of terror rippled through Clara. She could hear the frantic heartbeat thumping in her ears, drowning out everything else. The first robber stumbled backward, his eyes wide, confusion overtaking his aggression. He hadn't expected to pull the trigger. A momentary distraction, just enough for Clara to seize. Everyone, stay down. She shouted, her voice carrying authority she didn't feel. The guests scrambled to the ground, pressing their bodies against the cold tile of the floor, trying to disappear into the shadows. Leo's gaze darted between the original robber and the new arrivals. Clara, we need to know. She interrupted, her voice rising above the chaos. We need to create a distraction. If we can get them to focus elsewhere, we might find a way out. Time slowed as they exchanged frantic glances. He nodded, understanding their only chance lay in a united front. All right. I'll keep the original group busy. Clara's heart raced. She watched him move, muscles taut, as he faced the hooded men, ready to confront the danger head-on. What do you want? He challenged, voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. The leader from the Shadow Syndicate stepped forward, eyes blazing with a potent mix of greed and madness. You're in the wrong place, idiot. Stand aside, or prepare to see your worst nightmare. Enough. It's not worth it, Leo spat out, determination like a flame igniting his resolve. Whatever personal vendetta you think this is, shut up. The robber screamed, his patience evaporating like water under a hot sun. He raised his weapon, but before he could pull the trigger, Clara surged forward, swiping a nearby vase from the table. Don't you dare! She screamed, launching the vase against the wall, shattering it to pieces. The unexpected crash startled everyone, creating a chaotic symphony of sound. Look over there! She yelled, her voice alive with adrenaline. All eyes turned, including the masked men. For the briefest moment, confusion gave her transition to opportunity. With a surge of bravery, Clara made a dash towards the entrance, hoping her gamble would pay off. Clara! Leo called after her, panic etched in his features. Ignoring his plea, she dashed through the throng of bodies, but the closer she got to the door, a confrontational shout from the leader rang out. Don't let her escape. The thud of boots pounding against the floor echoed behind her, a relentless pursuit that stung her heart with fear. Clara burst through the door, her lungs gulping fresh air while her mind whirls in a desperate search for safety. Outside, the cold night wrapped around her like a shroud. She could hear the chaos unfolding inside, a mix of shouts, threats, and the relentless roar of gunfire. The weight of dread crept back in, hanging heavy on her shoulders as she turned. She couldn't leave Leo, she wouldn't abandon him. Inside, Leo struggled against the desperate robbers, his movements fluid but desperate, each act of defiance painted against a backdrop of impending doom. The tension in the air thickened, stifling everyone's breath. Suddenly, another shot rang out, this one louder, closer, echoing against Clara's bones like a death knell. She hesitated. Adrenaline coursing through her veins, she kicked off the ground into a sprint. Her heart raced with every step back toward her brother, but would she arrive in time to save him? Would the bond of blood prove stronger than the shroud of violence around them? Her mind raced. What secrets bound Leo to these criminals? What had driven him down this dark path? Clara needed answers, but survival outweighed everything else in this moment. With every thud of her racing heart, she drew nearer to the door. What awaited beyond her brother's freedom, her regrets, or a chilling confrontation with the truth? The moment of reckoning approached like clouds gathering for a storm. Would this night end in reunion or devastation? Clara didn't think. She acted, she bolted back into the building, dodging a cluster of terrified guests. The shots that rang inside felt like death's whisper, relentless and unforgiving. Every step drew her closer to Leo, but fear gnawed at her. Was it already too late? Inside, chaos reigned. The masked men clashed with desperation. Leo's back was against the wall, fists raised. He turned for an instant, the mix of terror and anger on his face sliced through Clara's resolve like a blade. Clara's breath came in jagged bursts as she crept low, spotting a gleam of glass amidst the wreckage of the vase. She snatched it up, the icy texture grounding her thoughts. Was this really all happening? Or was she trapped in a nightmare? Leo! She hissed, her voice a frantic whisper. He glanced back sharply. Relief flickered in his eyes, but it was quickly snuffed out by the urgency of the situation. Clara, you shouldn't have come back. He shouted, but she could see his mind racing, searching for a way out. I want to leave you. She snapped back, adrenaline filling her voice. Suddenly, a shout from the lead robber cut through the air, loud and vicious. Get her. Focus on her. Their eyes, shadowed and fierce, swiveled towards Clara. Panic hit her like an electric shock, and she instinctively backed away, but the shouts grew louder, more aggressive. Over there! One of the robbers yelled, lunging toward her. Clara felt an animal instinct awaken within her. She clenched the shard tightly. If Leo was going down, she'd be there to help him, no matter the cost. She wouldn't stand by helplessly. Come at me! She screamed, thrusting the broken glass forward defiantly. It was a bluff, but desperation gave it weight. The robber halted, hesitation flickering across his masked face. It only lasted a second, but it was all Clara needed. Go! She yelled to Leo. I'll distract them. Without waiting for a response, she hurled the glass at the nearest wall, the shattering sound echoing in the tension-filled space. The robber flinched, and in that moment, Clara dashed toward the entrance, drawing their attention completely. Get her! The leader commanded. She sprinted hard, her legs pumping beneath the weight of fear and determination. Leo, sensing the shift, lunged at the nearest robber, taking advantage of their distraction. Clara didn't look back. She needed to find a way to funnel them away from Leo, away from impending doom. Just as she reached the threshold, a hand gripped her arm, yanking her back with terrifying strength. The world spun as she faced the leader, eyes wild and furious. Thought you could outsmart me? He sneered, raising his weapon inches from her face. Clara's pulse raced. Leave him out of this! She shouted, fighting the panic rising in her throat. There was a flicker of laughter in his eyes, cold and merciless. He brought you here. You both likely know too much. Before she could react, a loud crash erupted behind them. They turned as Leo, fueled by anger and desperation, swung a metal bar, bringing it down hard on the attacker that had seized Clara. The robber stumbled backward, clutching his face, shock mingling with rage. Run! He roared, eyes wide with urgency. Clara didn't need to be told twice. She took off, Leo at her heels, adrenaline propelling them forward, but safety was an illusion. They barreled through the exit, breaths ragged and terror palpable, when a chilling scream echoed behind them. Clara spun around, her stomach in knots as a piercing thought crossed her mind. What if that scream belonged to someone they couldn't afford to lose? "Clara, we can't stop," Leo shouted, dragging her forward. "We can't just leave. Someone's hurt. Please." His voice broke, urgency cracking through the fear. "We need to stay alive." A distant siren wailed, slowly growing louder, but that didn't ease the terror clutching Clara's heart. They were not out of the woods yet. As they sprinted away from the chaos behind them, a deeper fear began to gnaw at her. The unraveling of secrets could shake the very foundations of their lives. Would they uncover the truth before it threatened everything? As they reached the corner of a darkened alley, Clara wrestled with a horrifying thought: if they escaped tonight, would they ever be the same again? Clara and Leo stumbled into the narrow alley, gasping for breath, the adrenaline still coursing through their veins as if it could shield them from the terror they had just escaped. The night's darkness pressed around them like a suffocating blanket, shadows stretching and shifting with every flicker of the distant streetlights. "Are you okay?" Leo's voice trembled, his eyes scanning their surroundings, ever the protector. I think so." Clara's heart raced. But the doubt lingered, gnawing at her insides like a relentless foe. "But what if someone's still after us?" "We have to keep moving," he urged, pulling her deeper into the alley. They couldn't risk being caught again, not when they had come so close to falling into darkness. They rounded a corner, but instead of finding solace, they walked into a dead end. A tall brick wall loomed before them, cold and unforgiving. Clara's heart sank. "Leo, what do we do?" He pressed his back against the wall, breathing heavily as if trying to regain control over a heart that beat wildly in his chest. "We can't get caught. Not now." Clara felt her pulse quicken again. "What if we scale the wall?" "Are you crazy?" He shot her an incredulous look that melted into uncertainty. "There's no time for that. They could be right behind us." She opened her mouth to argue, but the echo of shouting voices reverberated down the alley, harsh and frantic. Clara recoiled, her thoughts racing. "We can't stay here. They'll find us." Without thinking, she searched for an escape, her eyes darting across the gloom. A rusty fire escape clanged in response to the wind, just a few feet away. "Look!" she shouted. "That fire escape. We can climb it." Leo nodded, determination fueling his movements as they rushed to the metal ladder. Clara's fingers trembled as she gripped the cold rungs, but her mind was made up, nothing could stop her now. They scrambled up the ladder, heart rates soaring as the shouts drew nearer. Cries of "they went this way" echoed through the alley, sending pulses of panic through both of them. They reached the top, collapsing on the roof, breaths mingling in the chilly air. "What if they find us?" Clara murmured, peering over the edge. "Then we'll jump," Leo said, stealing his gaze. "We can't let them catch us." But as moments passed, an unbearable silence settled over them. Clara clenched her fists, anxiety clawing at her insides. "Leo, I feel like this is just the beginning. What if there's something more going on?" "What do you mean?" he said, concern etching deeper lines across his face. "I don't know, but the way that guy looked at me, I felt like he knew something." The memory of the robber's cold laughter echoed in her mind, a ghost that refused to dissipate. Leo frowned. "What do you think it was? Why would they want us?" "I've been thinking. What if it's because of my parents? Maybe their history is involved?" Clara's voice shook, the weight of their past pressing down on her. What if they knew something? Something dangerous? That thought hung in the air, thick and suffocating. The sirens grew louder, nearly drowning out Clara's frantic heartbeat. He didn't respond immediately, his brow furrowed with contemplation. Just as she opened her mouth to say more, a loud crash echoed from below. The sound of footsteps and shouting intensified, drawing closer to the base of the building. "Clara, we need to go. Now." They scrambled to the edge of the roof, hearts pounding as they peered down. A black SUV screeched to a halt, men pouring out with grim determination. The lead robber emerged, rage radiating off him like a storm. "We're not safe here," Leo urged, panic slipping into his voice. Clara's mind raced. They could either make a break for it or trust to stay hidden, an honest gamble that could lead to more catastrophe. "What if we wait? Maybe they'll just give up," she suggested, desperately hoping for an easy way out, but Leo faced her, unwavering. "You know they won T. We need to make a choice now or risk losing everything." Just then, Leo's phone erupted with a loud vibration. Clara's eyes widened as she saw the caller ID in unknown number. She hesitated, fear coursing through her. "What should we do?" she whispered, voice trembling, and as the sounds of chaos grew louder, one thought rang clear in her mind, overshadowed by impending dread: would the answer on the other end of that call change everything? Clara and Leo froze as the phone vibrated again, a menacing reminder of their precarious situation. The black SUV sat ominously below, its headlights sweeping the ground like angry searchlights, illuminating their hiding spot in a harsh glow. "Answer it," Clara urged, eyes wide with panic. "I can't," Leo's voice cracked, filled with disbelief. "What if it's a trap? We don't even know who it is. Or it could be someone who can help us." She was desperate, her heart pounding in her ears. "Tell them you're in trouble." Leo glanced at the incoming call, torn. The shouts from the ground grew more frantic, the men below growing increasingly agitated. They were running out of time. "Fine," Leo snapped, swiping to accept the call. He pressed the phone to his ear, but the voice that answered was muffled by the chaos below. "Leo? Is that you?" It was a woman's voice, edged with urgency. "You need to listen carefully. They know who you are. They're coming for you. You must run now." "Who is this?" Leo shouted, but the call cut off with a sharp click. He dropped the phone and turned to Clara, his face pallid. Did you hear that? We need to go. They know us. They're hunting us. Why would they want us?" Clara felt the world spinning. Every breath was a battle against the sickening fear that gripped her chest. "I don't know," he replied, glancing back at the edge of the roof, his mind racing. "But we can't stay here." Suddenly, there was a loud thud underneath them. They glanced down to see a figure directly beneath the fire escape, scanning the street with a sharp eye. "They're looking for a way up," Leo hissed, his voice quaking. Clara's stomach twisted. The unfamiliarity of fear set in, but she fought against it. "Maybe we can trap them," she said, breathing out a steadying breath. "We could toss something down to distract them while no. That's too dangerous." Leo interrupted, the intensity of his tone cutting through her thoughts like glass. He looked at her, determination burning deep in his eyes. "We've got to find an exit. This roof can't be our end." She gazed at him, both annoyed and terrified. Yet, they were united by fate, unwilling partners in this chaos. A rush of hope sparked in her chest. "Over there," Clara shouted, pointing to a vent at the far side of the roof. It looked old and rusty, but it was a possible escape route. "Are you sure?" Leo asked, doubt clouding his features. "Not really. But it's our best shot." Before he could argue, she rushed toward the vent, her heart thrumming. They reached it and discovered it was slightly ajar. Clara moved to pull it open, dread pooling in her stomach. They had little time. "Help me." She gripped one side of the vent while Leo took the other, pushing it aside with a loud screech. "Clara, hurry. He was already slipping inside. The sound of footsteps on the fire escape pierced the air. She squeezed through, the edges scratching her skin, but the urgency thrust her forward. Just as she crawled in, a voice shouted up to the men. "They're up there. Get up there fast." Clara's heart plummeted. "Don't look back," Leo insisted, scrambling ahead. "We're almost." Suddenly, a loud clank echoed behind them. Clara's breath caught, senses sharpened. Did they get in? They emerged into a dark shaft, the dimness swallowing them whole. Clara could hardly see, but Leo was quicker, shining his phone flashlight ahead. The sound of heavy footsteps thundered in the distance, each footfall resounding like a countdown. "Leo, please." Clara gasped, her mind racing. What if nobody's waiting for us on the other side? What if this leads us to worse trouble? What's worse than being caught? He shot back, urgency rippling in his voice. "We can't go back. We have to trust something will be waiting. We have to." But the uncertainty loomed like a shadow over them, every flicker of the flashlight threatening to reveal them to the storm brewing back outside, and just then, as they moved deeper into the shaft, they heard a low growl below, an unearthly sound that rumbled through the darkness, twisting fear into something sharp. "What was that?" Clara whispered, trembling. "Not sure," Leo replied, halting. "But whatever it is, it can't be good." The air thickened with dread, their feet halted amid the darkness. Clara's heart raced, and she clutched Leo's hand even tighter. "Do you think it knows we're here?" she murmured, a cold shiver surging through her body. As they pressed onward into the unknown, an unsettling fact settled between them: whatever waited ahead wouldn't play by their rules. And in that moment, the men outside weren't the only monsters stalking them in the shadows. What awaited them deeper in the darkness might be more terrifying than they ever imagined. The growl echoed again, a deep resonant sound that crawled under their skin. Clara felt frozen, a sense of primal terror seeping through her bones. Leo shined the flashlight past her, revealing a long, dark tunnel stretching away from them, filled with jagged metal piping that loomed like twisted fingers ready to snatch them. "Keep moving," Leo urged, his voice a sharp whisper, barely masking the tremor. They rushed deeper into the shaft, their footsteps echoing faintly as the shadows seemed to pulse around them. More growls rose from below, sharper now, filled with an urgency that sent Clara's heart pounding. She felt a lump forming in her throat as they shuffled forward. "What is that thing?" she gasped. "I don't know." "It's not human," Leo replied, scanning the dimness. "We just have to keep going. Get to the end." With every step, Clara's fears multiplied, spiraling into a chaos of dark thoughts. What if it was a monster? A creature born of nightmares? She squeezed Leo's hand tighter and pressed on, focused on the flashlight's beam, desperately seeking a glimpse of light that might mean safety ahead. "Leo, do you really think this goes anywhere?" She couldn't help the doubt pooling in her chest. The silence felt heavy, broken only by the dreadful growling reverberating behind them. "Trust me," he said, though his own eyes betrayed uncertainty. The glint of his flashlight suddenly caught something glistening on the floor, a puddle of something thick and dark. Clara squinted, recoiling in horror. "It's blood," she whispered, her voice barely rising above a breath. Leo shined the light closer, revealing trails of it smeared across the ground, leading further down the tunnel. "We can't stop. We have to keep moving," he urged, but his resolve faltered as he surveyed the grotesque signs of whatever had happened here. Before they could proceed, a loud thud reverberated against the walls, jolting them both into a defensive stance. "What was that?" Clara's voice was now frantic, echoing her fear. Moments later, the growl returned, closer and more menacing than before. An instinct kicked in, and Clara felt ducked while pulling Leo behind her. "What if it's a trap? What if it's waiting for us?" she said, her breath quickening. Leo raised the flashlight, shining it into the abyss ahead. "We can't let fear control us. That's how we die. We keep pushing through, he asserted, though the doubt in his voice made Clara's heart race. They inched further, the growls transforming into bone-chilling snarls. Clara's mind raced, they were utterly trapped with no way to backtrack. Gasps and panicked breaths filled the air, a mix of fear and the overwhelming scent of copper. Suddenly, they stumbled upon a fork in the tunnel, one path leading further down into darkness, while the other seemed to lead to light. Clara squinted, sweat trickling down her back. "Do we take our chances with the light?" she asked, her heart threatening to leap out of her chest. Leo hesitated, eyes darting between the two pathways. "Is it worth risking going into the unknown versus whatever that is?" He pointed back toward the growling noises, now echoing loud and furious. Just then, the beam of light flickered, and in that heartbeat of darkness, the snarls intensified, transforming into a roar that vibrated through the walls. The creature was close now, stalking them. "Now!" Leo yelled, grabbing her hand. They dove toward the light just as something large slammed into the wall behind them, creating a gust of cold air that rattled their bones. They stumbled into the open space, and Clara gasped at what lay ahead, a vast, underground chamber illuminated by flickering bulbs. It was then she saw the cages, and the other confused souls trapped within, eyes wide with terror, staring at her and Leo with desperate hope. "Help us!" One voice cried out, an echo of anguish. Clara staggered back, realizing they hadn't escaped danger, they had just walked straight into a trap meant for them all. "Leo, what do we do?" she breathed, panic taking hold again, but Leo's face had drained of color. He turned slowly, eyes widening with realization. "Clara, we've made a mistake. This was never an escape. They wanted us here all along," he said, dread ripping through his voice. The growling faded, but only for a heartbeat, replaced by the sounds of heavy footsteps approaching from the dark tunnel behind them. Whatever lurked in the shadows was joining them, ready to collect what they had sought to flee. Clara's heart raced as she faced the gathering shadows, the walls of their fate slowly closing in. They weren't safe. They were far from it. The darkness loomed over them. Clara clutched Leo's hand tighter, wishing they had never answered the call. All they could do was prepare themselves for whatever horror awaited in this bleak underground hell, and in that moment, a horrifying thought sliced through her mind: who would be the next one to emerge from the shadows? Clara blinked, the stark reality hitting her like a cold wave. The dim lights flickered above as the growling continued to reverberate through the air, an ominous reminder that safety was an illusion. Her mind raced. It felt like a nightmare, one she couldn't wake from. But this was real. The truth hit her harder than the cold gleam of the metal fence behind her. They had walked straight into the belly of the beast. "Clara!" Leo shouted, breaking the silence, urgency laced with a hardened determination. "Stay close to me. We have to find a way out." His eyes darted around, scanning the cages full of terrified faces, their expressions mirroring the dread swelling in Clara's chest. "Help us!" echoed throughout the chamber, a plea from souls trapped in their own darkness. Each cry tugged at her heart and tangled her thoughts. This was beyond robbery, this was hunting ground. "Leo, we can't leave them." Clara felt a lump in her throat. She wanted to help, but the cold awareness of their own impending doom crept closer. "Clara, listen." Leo gripped her shoulder, forcing her to look in his eyes, that same determination sparking with urgency. "We can't help them if we're dead. We need to get out while we still can." The growl intensified, ferocious and close, sending tremors through the concrete floor. With every heartbeat, Clara's fear morphed into desperation. She couldn't leave. But could she fight? "Right," she breathed, her voice a shaky reminder of their situation. "We need to distract whatever is coming. Just like before. Do you see anything to throw?" Leo scanned their surroundings, the dark cavern now swirling with uncertainty. Before Clara could respond, the growl erupted into a roar so deafening it made the walls shake, drawing attention back toward the dark tunnel. A hulking figure emerged, its silhouette cutting through the shadows, an enormous beast with sharp fangs glistening like daggers and eyes full of primal hunger. Now! Leo urged, lunging toward a nearby metal crate, ripping it free from the wall. He hurled it toward the advancing shadow, the clang echoing as the creature halted, momentarily confused. "Go, Clara!" he yelled, pushing her toward the cages. "Shut up!" screamed a voice from one of the cages, a frenzied mess of anger and despair. "You'll only get yourself killed. I'm not leaving anyone behind." Clara shot back, furious determination igniting within her. The flickering bulbs overhead cast erratic shadows, creating a dance of chaos around them. She rummaged through the debris and found a heavy bolt lying nearby. Gripping it with both hands, she felt something she hadn't for a long time: bravery. "All right, on three," Leo took position beside her as the shimmering eyes of the beast bore down, salivating with anticipation. 1, 2, 3. They launched the metal bolt toward the creature as Leo shouted again, drawing its focus. Sharp teeth flashed, and Clara's desire to save the fates of others flooded her veins, igniting a fire. "Leo!" Clara yelled, a plan forming. "I'm going to distract it. On my signal." Without waiting for a response, Clara rushed toward the far side of the chamber, brandishing the makeshift weapon like a knight preparing for battle, heart pounding. The creature snarled, lunging forward, its monstrous presence rippling through the air. "Clara! No!" Leo roared, but she was already drawing in her breath, adrenaline propelling her just the same. She swung the bolt against the wall in a series of loud clanks, the noise bouncing through the room, reverberating off the filthy walls. "Hey! Over here!" she shouted, letting desperation fuel her escape. Holding her breath, she dashed around the cages, adrenaline coursing with each step as the creature turned, jaws snapping empty air as it chased her instead. "Now, Leo!" she yelled, heart racing. Leo nodded. He flashed her a look, a silent agreement, and he dashed for the metal panel leading to the hall. With every step she took, Clara felt the panic building in the depths of her chest. Was she truly leading this beast away? Would she be quick enough? "Don't just stand there. Help them!" Clara screamed at the other captives as she ran past. She had to let them know someone cared, that they could break free too. "What about you?" one of them shouted, eyes wide and terrified. "No time. Just trust me. We can make it out." Another desperate roar from the creature echoed through the underground, drowning out her words as Clara continued sprinting, zigzagging through the dimly lit space. Finally, when she bolted around a corner, Leo waited with a door propped open, both fear and pride etched across his face. "Clara!" he called out, gesturing wildly. "Now! Now!" she screamed, pushing herself harder than she ever thought possible. But as she reached the door, the monstrous growl boomed behind her, a sinister sound that echoed with sheer rage. "Here!" Leo pulled on her arm just as the creature lunged, missing her by a hairbreadth. Clara felt a surge of fear-fueled strength as she barreled into the safety of the corridor behind the door, slamming it shut just in time. The wood shook violently as the beast's weight slammed against it. Panting, Clara turned back to Leo. Are we safe?" "We've got to move now," he breathed, ushering her forward. "We need to find a way out of this hell." As they ventured further into the corridor, sounds of life surrounding them dimmed to muffled echoes. Clara's heart raced, each step filled with uncertainty and doubt. But whatever awaited them ahead couldn't possibly be worse than what they had just faced. Because while darkness filled the underground, Clara felt something swell within her, a flicker of hope igniting against the grim backdrop of fear. "Leo," she said, breaking the silence. "We survived that. Whatever else is out there can't be as bad as this. Together we can make it." He nodded, determination lining the sharp edges of his jaw. "Together," he echoed. With one last glance toward where they had come from, Clara squeezed Leo's hand tighter, feeling the pulse of resilience and defiance. They pressed forward, ready to confront their fate. In that moment, Clara vowed to not only find freedom but to reclaim everything lost, each step a promise, every breath a new beginning. As they moved into the unknown, Clara knew they would face whatever darkness awaited them together. She would find a way for them to emerge into the light. And the night would never shroud them in fear again. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss a single story that's about to unfold. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to help feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section below with your reactions and theories about this wild conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how it all wraps up. Your connection matters, and together we'll keep this journey going.